This is the second tutorial for the layout series. What we're looking at right now is my thumbnails, because remember I started with this design board and I'm going to do an 8.5 by 11 full bleed flyer with tearaway tabs. So I've sat down and just really quickly sketched out some possible layouts of things on these, and I've thought about making my the name of the project the biggest thing on there, and then the date information being the next most important thing, and somehow incorporating some of those graphics. So after looking at these for a little bit, I realized that I really like this one over the others. So this is the one that I'm going to work off of, and we'll go from there. So first thing you need to do is create your new document. So I'm going to hit Command N, and then this is for print. So we want, and the final trim size is 8.5 by 11. I like starting with my final trim size, and set the resolution to 300 pixels per inch. Color mode is CMYK because we're printing, and set your background contents to white and click OK. So anytime that we're printing a full bleed object, that means that we will actually need more space than what the final trim size is going to be. But we want also to create something with guidelines and tick marks so we know where those edges are, and this is how I do it. I first build my document to trim size. Then I put guidelines around the outside. Now, if you've never used guidelines before, they're pretty nifty. First, you need your rulers to be showing. If your rulers aren't showing, go up to View and choose Rulers. And you can right-click on rulers to show what measurement they're in. Right now I'm in inches. And if you change one of them, it will change the other one. And you can always set it back by right-clicking on it and going back. Your ruler starts measuring at the 0 point, which by default in Photoshop is the top left corner. So here's my 0 on here, there's my other one, and it doesn't matter if I'm panning around or zooming in or moving, those rulers will stick with whatever my canvas is, which is kind of nice. So guidelines. If you click on a ruler and drag down, you will get a guideline. And when you let go, it's this really bright blue line, or maybe another color, because you actually can change the lines of these. And it's not a line that will print. It is an non-printing line. It exists only in Photoshop to help you line things up. And if I zoom out, you can see it even exists clear off into infinity here. And I can put, for this you put a guideline along each edge. Now if you watch, when I drag this one out and I get close to, it actually snaps right to that edge. That's a feature you need to either turn on, you can turn it on and turn it off, and you do that by going to View and choosing Snap. Now you can set what you want things to snap to, so if you ever feel like it, take a look through there. But right now we just want Snap On. It'll make this process a little bit easier for now. And then put guides on all of the sides. Now if you're dragging out a guide and you accidentally let it go before you intend to, no problem, just hold down Command and hover over it till you get this little double arrow symbol. Click and drag it down to where it needs to be. And if you happen to place an extra guide or one that you don't want or need to get rid of a guide, hold down Command, click and hover over it, and then just drag it back up to the ruler. That will get rid of it. So we have guidelines around our edge, and this sets where our trim line is going to be. So now we need to make the canvas a little bit bigger. To do that, go up to Image, Canvas Size, and to explain a little what this box is, this is where the little dot is where it will expand out from when we change the settings up here, so it needs to be set in the very center. And you can change the overall size, but I actually need 1/8 of an inch bleed all the way around here, so I need an additional 1/8 of an inch. And instead of trying to figure out what 2/8 of an inch plus to that, or added to that number is, I like to just hit relative and then add in the total amount that you're adding to the width and the height. So I'm adding a 1/4 of an inch, so 2/8. So here's an 1/8 and there's an 1/8, each equals 1/4 of an inch. to both the width and the height. So 0.25, 0.25, and you want to make sure that your canvas extension color right now should be white because that's the same color that everything else is. And then click OK. So there we've put 1/8 of an inch all the way around our canvas. Let's put another set of guides, and I will show you why here in just a second. So that indicates our bleed. Now we need to make it the entire size of the paper that it will be printing on. And because this is an 8.5 by 11 printing with a bleed, it needs to be the next size paper up, which is an 11 by 17 or tabloid size. So let's change the canvas size again. Go up to Image and choose Canvas Size. This time uncheck Relative because we want to just set the overall size of the entire thing, and set the width to 11 inches and the height to 17 and click OK. Alrighty, this is really good setup. So I have guidelines, and if I hide them, they will just completely disappear, which you can hide them by going again to View and then down to Show and choosing Guides, or you can use the key command, which is a lot quicker, which is Command semicolon. So if I hit Command semicolon, I realize there's actually nothing on that paper to indicate where the trim line is. So I actually need to build some tick marks. So turn your guides back on by hitting Command semicolon and create a new layer. And in your tools, go to your brush tool, click and hold down and choose the pencil tool. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. So if you remember, that first line that we put down, that very first inside guideline, is where the trim is going to happen. So we need to create some trim marks for that there. So the trim marks, you get your pencil tool and set it to about 3 pixels wide, 2 or 3, and hardness all the way up to 100%, and make sure your opacity is 100 and choose black as your main color. Then I'm going to just click and draw a line straight up, and you can keep that straight by holding down Shift. So if you click once, hold Shift and then drag it, it will create a line. And I want to do that for both of these inside lines, not on the outside line. And then pan over, which you can do by holding down the space bar, and do the same thing over here. Make sure you put them on the right guidelines, because I've done this before where I'll get one out of a set drawn on the wrong set of guidelines. Now the reason we're doing this is this little area in here will be filled with ink color that will get trimmed away, and that will make sure that we don't have any white outline left around our main object once we're done. So now that I zoom out, if I hide my guidelines again, Command semicolon, then I have some nice tick marks left. Okay. So one more step and then we will be ready to roll. I want to create a folder or a group that will have all of my layers in it and put a layer mask on that group so that none of the ink and stuff comes out over here. And the reason for that is you don't want to waste unnecessary ink, and you also don't want to accidentally cover up your tick marks with a layer. So this keeps it nice and tidy and everything pretty simple. So grab your rectangular marquee tool. The shortcut for that is M. Make sure the feather is at 0, and then click on this top. I'll zoom in a little so you can see better. So I want to click on that outside corner there and drag all the way down to the inside corner. So that's everywhere that my ink needs to be. And then over in my layers box, click the folder button down at the bottom, which will create a new group, and hit the Add Layer Mask button. Cool. So now if I add a layer, it will go in there, and if I filled that layer with a color, just to show you, I didn't have to make another selection. This is actually filling up the entire canvas, but the only part that's showing is what's inside of this layer mask selection. And anyway, I like working this way because it's really easy to drop graphics and stuff into here without things overlapping. So this is where I would like you to have things set up to, and we'll move on to the next step.